Part 46. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 451. Then he could calmly use his words to make Lin Yi succumb to his power and words and use them for his own benefit. But Lin Yi had been looking at him since he entered the door, and he knew that his plan could not go on. The other party's mystery far exceeded his estimation. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh deeply. The most perfect plan was broken, and he could only implement the backup plan. Direct threats will be brought up as a topic. He looked at Lin Yi and said slowly, "You are Lin Yi? The great detective Kellen who solved the case." Lin Yi looked at Su Wuzi, and heard what he said, and his heart was awed. It was indeed the deputy director who leaked the information. He came to my door. Looking deeply at Su Wuzi, Lin Yi smiled and said, "I don't know what this Taoist priest is talking about. I'm just a store manager of this coffee shop." Hearing this, Su Wuzi also smiled faintly. "You don't have to play dumb. Since I found you, I naturally have reliable information channels. Our fellow disciple of the Five Elements sect, Elder Hungfa, is dead, and this matter must be explained. He died in the process of your handling of the case because of your negligence and failure to stop him. Originally, you could have stopped his death, but you didn't do it. So the cause and effect will fall on you. This is the incident. The cause is also the reason why I came to find you. You have two choices now. The first choice is that I kill you and avenge my fellow disciples. The second choice is that you cooperate with us and become a witness for our section. When we confront the Empire, you have to testify. Prove that all this is a conspiracy of the Empire, and then I can let you live." Lin Yi heard this and looked at Su Wuzi quietly. "This Taoist priest, you may think too much. First of all, I am a law-abiding citizen of the Red Lotus Empire. Secondly, I am not the great detective Kellen you said. Third, I am an external commissioner of the Black-Clothed Man, and I belong to the Empire's system. Your threat to me is equivalent to threatening the Empire. For the above 3 points, no matter from which direction, I have no need to make false testimony for your section." Su Wuzi looked at Lin Yi, who was calm and refuted him, and a trace of coldness appeared in his eyes. He, it seems that you won't cry until you see the coffin. Our sect never needs concrete evidence to do things, we only need suspicion. I think you are, then you are. As for the fact that you are an external specialist of the Red Lotus Empire's Black-Clothed Men, we don't care. So you don't have to talk to me about these, you only have two ways to choose. Life or death. Lin Yi's eyes quietly looked at Su Wuzi in front of him. He experienced the tyranny of the sect for the first time. "I don't want you to think, I just want to think. It sounds really familiar. I remember it seems to be the words of a Chinese star in the past." There was a faint sneer in his eyes, and Lin Yi's expression was very indifferent. Looking at Su Wuzi, he said calmly, then there is nothing to talk about. If you don't have any tricks, just use them, I'll take over." As he said this, a cold expression appeared on his face, and he was not afraid of Su Wuzi's tyranny at all. Su Wuzi frowned and looked at Lin Yi, and the other's face was very calm. He didn't expect the other party to be fearless of the sect, which surprised him a little. "It seems that you are ignorant and fearless. You are so arrogant because you have not seen the power of the section." Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. "No, you are wrong. I know your sect is very powerful. There are even masters of the Earth Immortal Way and the Heavenly Immortal Way. But don't forget that I represent the Empire, unless you really want to go to war with the Empire. But you probably don't have the confidence yet, otherwise with your fierce and domineering appearance, you will never compromise with the Empire for so long. You are also afraid of the Empire, aren't you? So you came to me and wanted me to help you prove that this is a conspiracy of the Empire, thereby forcing the Empire to give in to you when it is in the wrong. You are not completely sure that you can make the Empire retreat. Although Lin Yi is not proficient in politics, he has seen pigs run even if he has not eaten pork. When Su Wuzi was talking, he had roughly guessed the other party's plan. He even deduced the attitude of the sect towards the empire, being cautious and seeking victory in a stable manner. When Su Wuzi heard this, his brows slightly frowned, and he looked at Lin Yi straight in the face for the first time. He took a deep breath and said, "You are smart, but it's a pity that smart people usually don't live long. It seems that the negotiations have broken down, so you should prepare to die. Someone must be responsible for the Dharma." Lin Yi smiled faintly when he heard this. "Use whatever tricks you have, I will take any means." Looking at the fearless Lin Yi, Su Wuzi's eyes showed a trace of dangerous light. He felt that the person in front of him seemed not that simple. Although he could see Lin Yi's cultivation, it was only the first level of the Ghost Immortal Dao, and it was not perfect. Logically speaking, he couldn't see how Lin Yi could compete with him. Even if he was a master of the weird side, he had seen it before. He could tell the depth of the opponent simply by judging from his aura. Lin Yi gave him the feeling that he did not have the aura of a strong man of the same level on the weird side. This also showed that the person in front of him had not practiced the power of the weird side. Su Wuzi took a deep look at Lin Yi, although everything told him that Lin Yi's realm was lower than his. But he could feel a huge danger from Lin Yi. After thinking about it, a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Although I don't know what confidence you have, it seems that you do have the strength to threaten me. Then please be prepared, tonight is your death." With that, Su Wuzi stood up from his seat and floated away from the Wanchaiwu. Lin Yi did not stop Su Wuzi from leaving. The other party would come again tonight, and a big battle was inevitable. It seems that we have to be fully prepared. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes slightly and felt a heavy pressure. 16 Ghost Immortals, I'm really flattered. Lin Yi looked through the French window at a hotel across the street. Through the window of the hotel, he looked at the deputy director. At this time, the deputy director noticed Lin Yi's gaze, and his heart suddenly condensed. This guy can actually find me, there is indeed a problem. Humph, even if you find me, so what, you can't break this situation. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 452. After beating the younger ones, there are still the older ones, one wave after another. Let's see how you can stop them. The deputy general manager's eyes were full of confidence, his face was cold, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he looked at Lin Yi. As if saying, "You know it's me, so what can I do? You can only wait to die obediently." Lin Yi clearly saw the expression on the deputy general manager's face, and a cold smile also appeared at the corner of his mouth. It's still unknown who will win. Lin Yi turned his head with a sneer, stood up and left his seat. Then think about it now, take the initiative to attack, solve them all, and then put all the problems behind. Or wait for them to come, move away directly, and give up everything here. At this time, Lin Yi's heart was a little complicated, because he knew that he might not have much time left in the Red Lotus realm. Take a deep breath, he felt a little helpless. Too weak. Although I have some capital, I still don't have much resistance to such a big force. It can solve the worries for a while, but it can't stop the endless human disasters. Sure enough, the rules I set for myself in the past were correct. Except for the incident of the vengeful spirit, I shouldn't interfere in any disputes between forces. This time I was careless and greedy. Cause and effect are intertwined and it's a mess. No one can escape the bondage of cause and effect. If there is no Wanchaiwu, I will never have any possibility to solve this matter. The final outcome is to be involved in these countless causes and effects and be crushed to pieces. Lin Yi's mind is very clear, and he deeply realized the horror of human struggle again. He was only slightly involved in the struggle between the sect and the empire, and he has fallen into the current dilemma. A pair of eyes, whether greedy, cold, calculating, or angry, stared at him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but let out a deep breath. After I leave the Red Lotus realm, I must thoroughly implement my previous requirements. Never participate in any incidents involving human disputes, and specialize in incidents against resentful spirits. I always have only one goal, to obtain resources by resolving incidents. Human battles will never have anything to do with me. Only in this way can I avoid the entanglement and causal involvement from these people to the greatest extent. At the same time, I have to continue to become stronger. Without strength, I will encounter this situation again one day. Lin Yi can almost predict that after he leaves the Red Lotus realm this time, he will definitely encounter this kind of thing again. If his strength is still insufficient, he will eventually be forced to leave. For the first time, Lin Yi felt deeply unwilling to be insufficient in strength. At this time, he seemed to see layers of causal involvement like spider webs, entangled with himself, like a spider web that trapped him there and unable to move. It seems that the only thing he can do is to completely burn this web and then jump into another web. Before the other web tightens, he has to burn that web again and go to another web. Constantly changing his position, avoiding every force majeure he encountered. Suddenly, he seemed to see himself going back and forth in countless spider webs, never having a stable place. A huge fear suddenly broke out from his heart. In an instant, it swept over his soul of swallowing thieves, making his soul dyed black. His heart seemed to be sinking in this fear. And at this moment, a ray of mysterious light bloomed again. The divine jade lotus once again showed its effect, and the mysterious light quickly removed the darkness in the soul of swallowing thieves. Lin Yi broke away from the negative emotions, and his face showed a trace of realization and solemnity. Good fellow, it's the inner demon again, I almost got caught up in it. At this time, Brandy and others were looking at him, and only heard Brandy say, "Manager, what's wrong with you? Your face is so pale, and your whole body was shaking just now." At this time, Lin Yi's energy was running, and he instantly calmed his body's instinctive reaction. He turned his head and looked at Brandy and said, "It's nothing, it was the inner demon just now, and I have suppressed it. When you step into the ghost fairy way in the future, you must be extremely careful. The inner demon is at work, and it can easily make you fall into it forever." Brandy's eyes showed a trace of fear when he heard this. He saw Lin Yi's strength and determination. But even the other party will be eroded by the inner demon, he dare not imagine what he will encounter in the future. At this time, Absinthe on the side said strangely, "Don't worry, don't forget that I am a vengeful spirit. What I like most is negative emotions. If you have inner demons, I will help you suck out all the negative emotions." Lin Yi was also stunned when he heard this, and looked at Absinthe strangely. He then remembered that the vengeful spirits seemed to be able to exist by absorbing the negative emotions of others. So does this negative emotion include the negative emotions generated by the inner demon? Will this absorption process cause harm to the person being absorbed? If it will cause harm, then what is the level of harm to the practitioner? An idea suddenly came to his mind. If this plan is indeed feasible, then Brandy will no longer need to worry about the problem of the inner demon. At this time, Brandy also noticed Lin Yi's gaze, and the other party was looking him up and down. A feeling of disgust rose from his heart. "Manager, what are you looking at?" Lin Yi turned his head and said casually, "It's okay, you guys are busy with your own things." Lin Yi turned back to his bedroom, and then disappeared in the Wanqi house in a radiant light. "Since you are targeting me, then take the initiative to attack. Although it can't completely solve the problem, it can delay the outbreak time of the problem. Maybe there will be some unexpected turn of events. After all, he has been operating in the Red Lotus realm for so many years, and all his connections and relationships are here. If he chooses to leave the Red Lotus realm, then everything will have to start all over again. although the world opposite has the Blackstone Group as its backing. But the weird power there made him feel a little uneasy. The ancient ruins tens of millions of years ago, the magical items contained in them are obviously weird objects. In Lin Yi's calculation, perhaps that world still had civilization tens of millions of years ago. However, these strange objects brought disasters and eventually destroyed the area. Countless years later, the humans there rebuilt civilization, and then this civilization discovered those strange objects from the ancient ruins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 453. As time goes by, perhaps there will be a new round of disasters. The world on the other side is obviously not as powerful as the Red Lotus realm, whether it is modern weapons, or the number of practitioners and masters. The energy concentration of the outside world is only the level of the second world change in the Red Lotus realm. Once the strange existence comes, I am afraid that there will be no ability to resist. This is a huge risk, and Lin Yi needs to be vigilant. Lin Yi thought about countless questions and possibilities in his mind. At the same time, he had come to the street outside the Wanqi house. The brilliance of the true destiny Daoji has been fully opened, and he is capturing the breath of the first 14 ghost immortal Dao masters. Although he plans to leave the Red Lotus realm, Lin Yi does not want to leave when others come to his door. He wants to solve all the threats and postpone the problem. When he feels it is appropriate, he will choose to leave. Lin Yi's actions at this time are very fast. His eyes locked on a breath and followed closely. In a few minutes, he came to a hotel in the east of the city. The breath he locked on lives here. Lin Yi quietly entered the hotel like a ghost. He walked along the ceiling of the hotel and quietly approached the person who was locked. Soon he saw the person he was locked on, a handsome man with a green light all over his body. This is a master of the second level of the Ghost Immortal Dao. He is not a weak person. He is only in his 20s and is obviously a genius disciple of the sect. Lin Yi held the destruction cane with a trace of coldness in his eyes. He was thinking about what to do next. Killing this person directly is actually the worst strategy. This kind of genius disciple may have something like a life lamp in the sect, just like in the storybook novel. As long as he dies, his original sect will be alarmed immediately. At that time, these sects will definitely send people again. At that time, everything he does is actually useless, and the other party will eventually investigate him. It seems that we still have to use the power of the Wish Shrine to restrain them with the power of cause and effect. Then we must first let him be defeated without any resistance. Thinking of this, a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. He carefully observed the other party, looking for the moment when the other party relaxed. At this time, the man walked to the sofa and was about to sit down. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes, and the space-time canvas was activated. The next moment, Lin Yi appeared behind the man. The destruction cane had silently pierced into the man's back under the wrapping of the true destiny, and passed through his chest. A cold voice also sounded at the same time, "Move, and you will die." At this time, the handsome man looked at the cane that came out of his chest, and he was completely stunned. After hearing Lin Yi's voice, his whole body was stiff, and he dared not move at all. He felt a threat of death looming over him. As long as he dared to move, there would be no surprise in the ending. At this time, his heart was trembling, and his soul was frantically alarming. That was the feeling of death. First of all, what pierced your body was a thing called the destruction cane. This is a strange object. It is now covered by my power and is not dangerous for the time being. But as long as you move, I will take back my power and let the power of the destruction cane explode directly. This kind of power is not something you can resist. As long as you touch it, you will definitely die. The power of this cane is to destroy all visible and invisible things and turn everything into the most basic unit. If you don't want to die, don't move. Lin Yi clearly explained all the characteristics of the destruction cane to this person, making the other person feel colder and colder. As a strong man of the ghost immortal Dao, he has condensed his soul and reached the peak of the second level. But the body is still the most important organ for him. Once he dies, he has only two choices. The first choice is to become a lonely ghost, or to reincarnate into a vengeful spirit with some secret methods. The second choice is to wait for death to come. He doesn't want to become a vengeful spirit, nor does he want to die. Since the mysterious person behind him didn't kill him at the first time, he must have something to ask for. Thinking of this, his heart sank slightly. I am from the section. If you kill me, my master will immediately sense my death, and then there will be masters from the sect to check. No matter who you are, the final outcome is only death. I know, so I didn't kill you. After all, I don't want to die together. Hearing this, the handsome man couldn't help but feel a little relieved. He knew that as long as the next negotiation went smoothly, he should be fine. The tone relaxed slightly. My friend, I don't know what grudge we have that requires you to plot against me like this. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. We can have a good talk. Lin Yi smiled and said, actually it's not a misunderstanding. Aren't you here to kill me this time? Hearing this, the handsome man immediately knew who was behind it, and his face suddenly froze. Lin Yi from the Wanchaiwu. Awesome, really awesome. I didn't expect you to be able to get to me silently. It seems that everyone underestimates you. Lin Yi heard the handsome man's praise and smiled slightly and said, it's not that I underestimate you, but you are just a little arrogant. Okay, now that we have come to this point, tell me what you want. My request is actually very simple. Let's sign a contract. You must not disclose any information about me to anyone. Secondly, you must not bother me again. As long as you agree to these two contracts, you can be free from death. Be careful, don't think I dare not kill you. I just try not to make it so troublesome. Even if I kill you, believe me, although your sect is powerful, you will never find me. Lin Yi's words were full of confidence, which made the handsome man who was held hostage jump in his heart. He couldn't help but reveal a trace of gloom on his face. He could naturally hear the confidence in Lin Yi's words. He would never gamble his life that Lin Yi dared not kill him. He took a deep breath. Although the heaven and earth Qin Wang Xiang fought on Lin Yi was very important, it also made him excited. But now that he fell into the hands of the other party, he could not decide his own life or death. Being able to survive was the most important thing. Nothing else mattered. Thinking of this, he had already made up his mind. Okay, I agree to your terms. Lin Yi nodded slightly. Since you agree, let's write the contract. Here is the paper and pen. I have already written the content. The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 454. Just write your name and sign your consent. A piece of paper with a contract written on it and a pen came to the handsome man under the control of Lin Yi's spirit. The man picked up the white paper and pen and looked at the content on it. It was roughly the same as what Lin Yi said. There is just one more punishment. If you violate the treaty, you will die. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yi wrote his name under the stripe. Quan Xiudong. Seeing the name, Lin Yi smiled slightly. By the way, it doesn't matter whether you write your real name or not, because this is a contract of the law of cause and effect, guaranteed by the power of strange objects. As long as you sign this text, it will leave your breath. After the contract is established, as long as you violate it, you will die. Then, even if the contract between us is officially reached, don't tell your companions, because this contract has been completed since you signed it. Once you violate the contract, the consequences will be death. For the sake of your own life, don't be stupid. With that said, Lin Yi took out the crutch of destruction, opened the true fate solution, sank to the ground, and disappeared from Guan Xiudong's perception. Guan Xiudong turned around suddenly and looked at the empty back. A cold feeling rose in his heart, and cold sweat broke out from his back. Lin Yi put too much pressure on him. He arrived mysteriously and left mysteriously. The most important thing is that I never saw this person's true face from beginning to end. It has to be said that for the first time, he felt the danger of this world. There is such a person in the world. This time, I am blind. I have to be more careful in the future. Thinking of this, Guan Xiudong took a deep breath and checked out directly. He doesn't plan to interfere in this matter anymore. It's obvious that this person is prepared, and others will never be able to escape his methods. But in his heart, he already hated Xuanhuan, who had betrayed the news to them. Xuanhuan, this person is so dangerous, yet you didn't tell us any information. You did this on purpose, you wanted him to kill us and then induce the sect behind us to get rid of him. You also got the Earth Spirit Pill and the 3 Light True Water from us. You played a good hand, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and you treated us like monkeys. Thinking of this, the anger in his heart kept rising. We'll see. After they are all tricked, we will join forces to cause trouble for you. At this time, Lin Yi left the hotel where Guan Dongxiu was staying and quickly returned to the street where Wan Chaiwu was located. He began to locate the second person's position, and this plan would not stop once it started. Today was destined to be a busy day. Lin Yi was like the most astute hunter, tracking his prey and taking them down one by one with the help of the cane of destruction, the canvas of time and space, and the boundless life. There were 14 people in total, which took him the entire day. The names of 14 people have been written on the contract in hand. They come from various sects. Lin Yi did not place too many demands on the contract because he knew that too many demands would definitely make these people feel conflicted. What he has to do now is just to deal with this danger, not to fight the other party to the death. A suitable treaty, coupled with a certain level of risk to life, can make it easier to convince the other side. And its calculations are also very correct. Faced with this treaty, basically no one refuses. When he returned to the house of all things and put this piece of white paper into the incense burner of the wish shrine, a mysterious power was activated. This piece of white paper spontaneously ignited without wind and turned into a mysterious rule, connected to Lin Yi and the 14 geniuses of the sect. Those who had already chosen to leave the place at this time felt a mysterious force envelope them. It was as if a pair of eyes were watching them in the sky all the time. Once they did anything that violated the contract, they would face death. In a high-end club in Honglian City, everyone had a solemn look in their eyes. 14 figures appeared here silently. They looked at each other and could feel each other's embarrassment. Just listen to Guan Xiudong's voice, it seems that everyone has signed the contract and knows what happened. This time it was our negligence and no one else is to blame. But one thing is important. When Xuanhuan told us the news, he never mentioned how terrifying Lin Yi is. He also defrauded us of the Earth Spirit Pill and the 3 Light True Water. This matter must not be left alone. The inner demon's oath caused us to neglect. I suggest mobilizing our own forces to find him first, and then go to the door to get the things back. As for Xuanhuan, he doesn't even want to live. Hearing Guan Xiudong's words, everyone else nodded secretly, and a cold voice said, "You are right. If he dares to conceal such important information, he must be prepared to pay the price." 14 genius masters from various sects have reached an agreement, and a storm is about to rise. At this time, Lin Yi was preparing to deal with the second wave of danger today. The next one is Wuzi from the 5 Elements section. This person is at the pinnacle of the Ghost Immortal Dao. His perception of the outside world is much better than those masters at the second level of the Ghost Immortal Dao. He has already condensed his thoughts. You can monitor the surroundings at any time. It's impossible to approach him silently. When a ghost fairy reaches the third level, once he has condensed the Deo Palace, passed the three disasters, and his soul and spirit have merged into one, he will have a will. This will turn from virtual to real, just like the divine will in novels and books, which can scan the surroundings at any time and be alert to any danger. After reaching this realm, he will be very sensitive to any disturbances in the four surroundings, and it is almost impossible to sneak attack. Because of this ability, it is almost difficult for Lin Yi to deal with him in the same way as he dealt with Guan Xiudong and others. However, he will definitely take down the Su Wuzi. It seems that it will take some effort. Fortunately, I still have the true destiny, otherwise there is really no way. Lin Yi did not go directly to Su Wuzi, but quietly waited for him in the Wanchaiwu. Their negotiations had already collapsed, and the other party would come to kill him tonight, so he only needed to wait here quietly. Night came quickly. Lin Yi asked vodka, absinthe, brandy, whiskey, weird children, bad doctors, and two-headed dogs to stay in the lobby. Absinthe, whiskey, and other summons are hidden in another space of the Eurozwia. Brandy and vodka are in the bar and in the corner of the lobby respectively. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 455. Lin Yi sat in front of the French window, quietly waiting for Su Wuzi, who might arrive at any time. It was dark and windy, killing people, and time passed by. Soon, a figure appeared at the corner of Wanchaiwu. Su Wuzi, wearing a black Taoist robe, was approaching Wanchaiwu. His face was calm, and he held a feather fan with 5 feathers in his hand. The 5 feathers flashed 5 colors. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. His Taoist robe was embroidered with a colorful divine bird, which was the legendary 5-color peacock. Cultivating the 5 elements of the 5 elements and integrating the only one is a righteous sect with a deep foundation. And the treasure in their hands is called the 5 elements divine fan, which is almost a magic weapon in everyone's hands. Legend has it that in this sect, there is an ancient peacock divine bird that sheds feathers every 1,000 years. These feathers will be collected by the people of the 5 elements sect and refined into a magic fan with some other materials. Therefore, as long as the people of the 5 elements sect step into the ghost immortal Deo, they will get a magic weapon that suits them best. Not to mention reaching the peak of life, but among the masters of the same generation, they will definitely not be weak. Combined with the sect's world-class 5 elements extinction divine needle Deo, once it is used, it will be extremely powerful. Other sects are unwilling to provoke it. Because of this reason, the people of the sect act more domineeringly, and even compete with the Taoist sects in the righteous way for the first place in the righteous way. Walking on the street, Su Wuzi looked at the black sky with a vague look in his eyes. Tonight is a starless night, the whole world is dark, and only the street lights on the street are flashing orange light. I don't know why, when Su Wuzi passed by these street lights, they gradually went out in the flashing. It seems that there is some weird existence passing by them and sucking away the energy of the street lights. Although Lin Yi was sitting in the Wanchi house at this time, his true destiny and Taoism were always open. He looked around and saw Su Wuzi coming from a distance. In his eyes, Su Wuzi was like a huge ball of 5-colored light. The other party's thoughts spread to the area several meters away, and a trace of the 5 elements essence was shrouded by the thoughts. A mysterious wave spread from his body, reflecting these essences. It even formed an area like a domain. In this area, all energy was under his control. A strange structure was forming in this area. This structure produced a wonderful force field, attracting deeper energy in the surrounding void. Lin Yi's true destiny and Taoism immediately saw the mystery of this area. If the external energy that can be controlled by the pure ghost immortal thought is 1, then after condensing this mysterious structure, the energy that can be absorbed becomes 5. Seeing this, Lin Yi understood that the fighting method of the peak of the ghost immortal Deo The most important thing is to mobilize the energy of the outside world, and at the same time cooperate with one's own essence to produce a more powerful attack power. Perhaps the energy of the outside world is not as pure as the essence in the body in terms of quality, but in terms of quantity it can exceed the limit of the essence in the body. Therefore, the quantitative change leads to a qualitative change, forming a huge combat power suppression. After feeling this change, Lin Yi's eyes condensed slightly. It seems that tonight will be a hard battle. At this time, all the combat power in the Wanchaiwu has gathered in the lobby. The weird child, the bad doctor, and the two-headed dog are all here. Lin Yi's voice sounded in the ears of Vodka and Brandy. You go to the underground maze and let the maze guards get ready. The battlefield will eventually extend there. Vodka and Brandy are both pure humans. Once they die, they are really dead, so Lin Yi asked them to go to the underground maze to organize the maze puppets first. And he and his 5 summons were all left in the lobby. Let's fight with this Su Wuzi first to see how strong he is. According to the result of the first confrontation, we will decide the next plan. Although Su Wuzi's aura is fully open, all the energy fluctuations are locked in the area he created. He is perfect and there is no energy fluctuation leakage. This has obviously reached a delicate operation, and the control of his own power has reached 100%. Lin Yi carefully watched the approaching Su Wuzi, and constructed the combat power displayed by this person in his mind. He became more cautious in his heart, stood up from his position, and retreated to the depths of the lobby. His 5 summons are hidden in the space around the lobby. Full of corrosive gas, it has filled the entire lobby, and the bad doctor is releasing his power in an endless stream. When Su Wuzi came to the door of the Wanchaiwu, his eyes stared directly at Lin Yi through the French window. The breath between the two gradually solidified, and a solemn atmosphere filled the air. Su Wuzi had a confident smile on his face, looking at Lin Yi with contempt. Are you ready to die? A faint voice passed through the door of the Wanchaiwu and reached Lin Yi's ears. Facing the confident Su Wuzi, Lin Yi said calmly, I am ready to kill you. Hearing this, Su Wuzi showed a hint of ferocity on his face. Haha, it's true that times have changed. Even you casual cultivators dare to show off in front of the section. It seems that the sect really needs to re-establish our dignity, otherwise everyone will want to ride on our heads. Speaking of this, his tone became colder, and he slowly raised the 5 elements divine fan in his hand. The next moment, a huge amount of essence was injected into it, and the energy around it rushed in crazily. In a short time, the whole fan exuded a colorful brilliance, and the next moment, the treasure fan blew towards the Wanchi house. A series of colorful and flashing needles gushed out of the treasure fan, densely packed, covering the sky and the sun. Instantly covered the door and floor-to-ceiling windows of the Wanchi house. There was no sound, everything was silent, as if a colorful torrent rushed into the Wanchi house. Lin Yi was not moved at all in the face of the impact of this torrent. He did not even move, but his body exuded a faint true and boundless brilliance. All the needles pierced his body and made the wall behind him into a honeycomb. This colorful torrent directly penetrated all the walls and slowly disappeared until it reached the backyard area. The walls were riddled with holes, revealing countless tiny pinholes. But Lin Yi still stood calmly in the depths of the lobby, quietly looking at Su Wuzi. At this time, 5% of the spiritual waves in his body had disappeared, and it was obvious that the attack just now had reached the limit of the consumption of Zhenming Wujiang. Su Wuzi outside, looking at the almost destroyed furniture, walls, and glass on the first floor of the Wanchaiwu, but the Ling Ai who was unscathed, showed a hint of surprise in his eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 456. Looking at the unharmed Lin Yi, Su Wuzi was very shocked. He did not see any injuries on Lin Yi. His eyes swept over the Wanchaiwu, and his eyes were full of surprise again. Logically, the Wanchaiwu would collapse directly due to the destruction of the heavy parts. But the Wanchaiwu did not react at all. Most of the walls on the first floor had collapsed completely, but the second floor was still in its original position, without any collapse. Looking at this scene, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of deep thought in his eyes. This is really interesting, the power of the weird illusion. His eyes fell on Lin Yi, and Su Wuzi walked into the Wanchaiwu. He stepped over the dilapidated French windows and stepped on the floor of the lobby. Then his face changed slightly. There was a corrosive smoke in the air, and a faint five-colored light rose from his Taoist robe. Zzz. A strange sound rang in their ears, and the light it emitted was colliding with the corrosive smoke in the air. Feeling the corrosive smoke in the air, Su Wuzi showed a sneer on his face. Strange power? Continuous consumption. Interesting. Let me see what methods you have. Su Wuzi approached Lin Yi step by step, and the treasure fan in his hand gradually lit up again. But at this moment, a storm of ice and fire suddenly gushed out from the void on his left. The figure of the two-headed dog appeared there silently. The black ice enveloped him like a tornado. His eyebrows jumped, and then the Taoist robe on Su Wuzi's body burst into colorful light. It turned into a colorful circular light shield to cover it, and the storm of ice and fire produced wonderful changes after contacting and reaching this light shield. There was no big explosion in the impact. On this colorful light shield, the stream of light of the five elements continued to operate in a wonderful structure. After the ice and fire storm came into contact, it was decomposed by a strange force field generated by the cycle and flowed to the surroundings. The ice and fire storm was visible to the naked eye, sliding left and right from the light shield without causing any damage to the light shield. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of solemnity. The opponent was stronger than he imagined. The ice and fire storm of the two-headed dog had a high temperature of thousands of degrees and a temperature close to absolute zero below zero. Under the cold and hot, no material could last long. But the opponent's wonderful energy shield produced a strange force field, which poured the impact of this ice and fire storm to the surroundings. The ground and furniture fragments of the Wanchaiwu were all charred and turned into ashes under the impact of ice and fire. In another moment, Lin Yi immediately realized a certain principle of the opponent's instrument light shield, similar to an artificial sun. The artificial sun is a power generation system created by nuclear fission, and the most important thing is that the force field binds the fissionate atoms. Because the high temperature generated during nuclear fission reaches 1 billion degrees, no material can withstand this temperature. Only a pure force field can constrain this temperature range. The light shield produced by the opponent's device obviously uses a similar principle to repel the energy attack with a force field. Thus, the properties of the energy itself cannot play a role. The properties of the ice and fire storm are hot and cold, but for the pure force field, this property has no effect. Su Wuzi continued to walk towards Lin Yi with an expressionless face. He didn't even pay attention to the two-headed dog, as if he didn't take the other party seriously at all. It seemed that he wanted to prove it to Lin Yi. Come on, use all your means, I will crack it one by one and let you go to despair. Countless black smoke tentacles rushed out of the corrosive mist. These tentacles covered the light shield in front, behind, left and right, and attacked the light shield frantically. Bang 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 bang. These black mist tentacles composed of pure weird power, similar in shape to matter, touched the colorful light shield in an instant. Su Wuzi stopped and looked at the tentacles covering his defensive magic weapon, with a trace of disdain in his eyes. Is that all you can do? A faint word came out of his mouth and reached Lin Yi's ears. Then he made a seal with his left hand, and a strange wave instantly merged into his Taoist robe. Then the colorful light shield filled with his Taoist robe trembled violently in an instant. The light shield began to vibrate violently, just like a high frequency. In an instant, this high frequency produced a strange and huge force field, and also produced a huge destructive force. The tentacles that touched the light shield were instantly shattered in this high frequency vibration. The strange child looked at Xuanhuan with resentment, and a strange psychedelic light appeared in his eyes. The next moment, Xuanhuan felt that a mysterious force was invading his spiritual world. But the soul in his body, a mysterious thought rose up and turned into a five-colored mountain. Like a rock, it instantly suppressed his spiritual world. The power from the outside world was like hitting a copper wall and iron wall, unable to advance at all. A trace of disdain appeared on his face. Strange power, nothing more than that. This was the first time that Lin Yi fought against a top master of the ghost immortal Dao, and his summoned creatures failed twice. At this time, Whiskey jumped out from behind Xuanhuan. The fist, which was the size of a human head, was covered with black scales and a strong strange power. It blasted out with violent power. It fell on the light shield like raindrops, and the light shield was shaking constantly. Whiskey's fist was very heavy, which was the limit of the human body in pure physical force. Whiskey's body structure has completely surpassed that of humans, and it is a non-human structural system. So he can burst out this physical attack power that exceeds that of humans. And the most terrifying thing is his regeneration ability. He can push and explode the power in his body without limit. Even if his body collapses because of the excessive power, there will be a regeneration system to help him repair the damage to his body, so that it can continue to burst out 200% of its own power. This terrifying ability will make him qualified to challenge the higher level, and it is also the most powerful summon in Lin Yi's hands. But the violent attack fell on the light shield like raindrops, under the power of ultra-high frequency vibration. This huge force, spreading along the entire light shield, only affected the frequency of the light shield vibration to a certain extent. Xuanhuan stopped walking in surprise and looked back at Whiskey, who was attacking fiercely. Seeing the black scales on his opponent's hands, his defense shield was slightly dented by the attack, and the speed at which his energy was consumed. He couldn't help but say in surprise, "I didn't expect you to have such a thing in your hand." The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 457. It's almost as good as the copper-armored corpse of the demon path. What a pity, it's a waste of talent in your hands, and it has no potential. At this point, Xuanhuan was disappointed and waved the treasure fan in his hand lightly. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. A piece of 5-element light rushed out from the treasure fan and turned into a 5-color divine light. The light fiercely hit Whiskey's fist. A terrifying force broke out instantly, and Whiskey's hands were instantly pierced by countless fine needles in the divine light. In an instant, he was beaten into countless sieves, and countless fine holes appeared in his body. After doing all this, Xuanhuan turned around and continued to look at Lin Yi. In his opinion, this guy was dead. But at the moment he turned around, Whiskey moved again. His regeneration ability was extremely terrifying, and the densely visible muscle tissue quickly repaired his body damage. Countless fists fell like raindrops, bombarding the 5-element light shield. Xuanhuan couldn't help but stop and turn to look at the intact Whiskey. For the first time, his face showed a moving look. Interesting, such a powerful regeneration ability, this is the first time I have seen it. I am very interested in this strange monster of yours, I will collect it later. As he said this, he took out a colorful rope from his arms. A stream of essence was injected into it, and he raised his hand to throw it towards Whiskey. In an instant, the colorful rope expanded rapidly in the air, and turned into circles of colorful ropes in the air. It directly enveloped the sky above Whiskey and shrunk towards Whiskey. Lin Yi saw it and knew what the other party wanted to do. It was obvious that he wanted to use the power of the magic weapon to seal Whiskey. But how could he allow it? With the thought, Whiskey disappeared into the air. He had entered the strange space level of the Wanchai. The colorful rope shrank, but did not tie up whiskey. Su Wuzi frowned, laughed, and turned to look at Lin Yi. So that's how it is. You have space level means in your Wanchai. At this time, Lin Yi felt very tricky. His 4 summons had already used all their strength in turn, but they couldn't cause any damage to Su Wuzi. The only effect was to consume about 10% of Su Wuzi's essence. But he could see that there were 5 different essences sealed in Su Wuzi's 5 internal organs. Once released, he would instantly restore him to his prime. Obviously, this was some mysterious means to prolong the battle time, a secret method exclusive to the sect. Lin Yi looked at Su Wuzi, who was constantly walking towards him, and he was very impressed. The sect is really powerful. Once you step into the peak of the Ghost Immortal Way, it is simply an all-round existence without dead ends. From defense, attack, spirit, trapping the enemy, and even protracted war, it seems impeccable. At this moment, Lin Yi finally saw the foundation of the sect clearly. For countless years, they have already explored a complete combat system. They have brought their own advantages to the extreme, so they are not afraid of anyone. Even if the Empire has such terrifying technological capabilities, and even demonstrated the Sun God with nuclear weapons, they are still trying their best to compete with the Empire. And all this comes from their own confidence, and the great power belongs to themselves. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of coldness. It's really powerful, your sect is really unimaginable. But with your current strength, I'm afraid you can't kill me. If you have the ability, follow me. As he said, Lin Yi turned and retreated into the corridor. Stepped into the kitchen. Go directly to the underground maze. The tactic he pursues is you fight yours, I fight mine. The battlefield should be chosen by me, not you. If you come, then fight, if you don't come, then get out. He just figured out Su Wuzi's arrogant psychology. Since the other party came to kill him, he will definitely achieve his goal, so the other party will also break into the dragon's den and tiger's lair. Especially when the power he showed was not enough to threaten the other party. Then the other party would definitely think that all his ambushes and traps were just a joke. A cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and Su Wuzi looked at Lin Yi, who fled into the kitchen, with a hint of teasing in his eyes. Run, no matter where you run, your ending will not change. I will let you die in powerlessness and despair. No one in this world can escape after offending the section. Our sect is the master of this world, the pride of heaven. A faint sense of pride rose in his chest. Looking at Lin Yi, who was running away with his head in his arms, Su Wuzi gradually felt excited in his heart. That was the feeling of hunting. At this time, he followed Lin Yi's footsteps to the kitchen and stood at the entrance of the underground maze. Looking at the 1-meter square underground maze entrance, he frowned slightly. His eyes flashed with colorful brilliance, and he saw the rich and strange power in the maze. Illusion created by the strange power underground. Interesting, let me see what else you can do. At this time, the colorful light shield around him slowly shrank and turned into a 1-foot thick light that just enveloped him. Da-da-da. The crisp footsteps echoed in the underground maze. Lin Yi's mind was connected to the entire Wanchai, so he could naturally see his arrival. At this time, he had arrived at the center of the underground maze. He mobilized the power of the underground maze, changed the terrain of the maze, and formed an open area of more than 100 square meters here. And in the 4 sides of this open area, 20 maze puppets of the level of human immortals appeared. There were also dozens of maze puppets of the level of rushing to the top or penetrating the body. His 4 summons also appeared in the 4 directions of southeast, northwest, and northeast. Brandy and vodka stood beside him. He concentrated all his strength in the ambush from 10 sides. Facing the existence of the peak level of ghost immortals like Su Wuzi, fighting alone is absolutely impossible. In the contest in the lobby just now, he has already figured out the opponent's means and strength. The next step is the real fight. He did not hope to kill this man by siege. His purpose is just to consume the essence in the opponent's body and force out all the essence and combat power in the opponent's body first. The real killer is actually himself. In order to fully exert his strength, he needs someone to create opportunities for him. And the summoned creatures and maze puppets that will not die are the best bait. Everyone get ready, you will all die next. Lin Yi's mind instantly locked onto Su Wuzi, and a mysterious space wave enveloped the area where Su Wuzi was. The next moment, Su Wuzi felt that the scenery around him had changed. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 458. A rocket with flashing fire rushed out from the hand of a maze puppet in the direction of Lin Yi at this moment. This maze puppet was the violent Black Dragon. When he came to assassinate Lin Yi, he had brought a rocket launcher, but only used one shell, and there was still one shell left. At the moment when Su Wuzi was transferred to the scene by Lin Yi using the power of the maze, he had already fired, using modern weapons to deal with Su Wuzi. The appearance of the rocket was far beyond Su Wuzi's expectations. The violent power exploded at this moment. Countless shrapnel splashed around, enough to destroy the life in this underground space. But at this time, all the maze puppets and Lin Yi's summons were in another space-time level. In this space-time level, they will not be physically harmed. This is the special ability of the weird environment. Lin Yi, brandy, and vodka, under the light of Lin Yi's true destiny solution, completely ignored the danger of shrapnel. The horrible explosion turned the entire open area into a chaotic area with potholes and smoke covering the ground. But at this time, colorful streams of light came out of the smoke, and Su Wuzi's face turned slightly pale. Although he had a magic weapon, he could not ignore the power of modern weapons. The pure impact of the explosion must be offset by equal force. Just that one time, he consumed at least 30% of his energy. At this time, Lin Yi's laughter came into his ears. Just now, you consumed at least 30% of your energy to resist. After this, you now have at most 60% of your energy left. Do you think my men are enough to drain your strength? As he said this, the figures of the maze puppets walked out of another space level of the weird illusion. Seeing so many weird beings suddenly appear, Su Wuzi also changed color. How is it possible? How do you have so many strange beings as your subordinates? I have investigated you. You have only shown 4 strange beings summoned outside. You deceived everyone. Su Wuzi showed a trace of horror in his eyes, and looked at Lin Yi with a serious face for the first time. Facing so many strange beings of the immortal level. With 60% of his power, he was not sure that he could defeat them all. And at this time, there was another strange being holding a modern heavy machine gun. He looked at him with a covetous look, so he dared not be distracted at all. Most modern weapons are pure physical attacks. Compared with these strange beings, they are actually more stressful to him. Because even if it is a magic weapon, facing these modern weapons that do not consume any energy, the durability is much worse. The war is about to break out. Su Wuzi took a deep breath and his face became solemn. He knew that the next step would be a life and death fight. Lin Yi smiled faintly and waved his hand gently. Go. 10 figures rushed up, and all kinds of attacks broke out. Whiskey rushed to the front. Fists burst out, countless forces turned into raindrops and violently blasted out. This time, Su Wuzi did not resist hard, but flashed a strange step under his feet, dodging the attack of Whiskey. He rushed towards Lin Yi like lightning. At this moment, 2 strange lights enveloped him. They were 2 strange maze puppets under Lin Yi. Facing these 2 black lights, Su Wuzi felt a sense of crisis in his heart. He instantly knew that there was something strange about these 2 lights. Without any hesitation, his body paused, and then his left hand pinched out a spell. The colorful light flashed, and he disappeared on the spot. At the same time, two black lights fell on the ground where he was just now. It can be seen with the naked eye that the ground quickly turned gray and black, as if it had lost its vitality and turned into a dead thing. And at the moment when Su Wuzi disappeared, Lin Yi also moved. The power of the space-time canvas was activated almost at the same time, causing him to disappear from the spot. When he appeared again, he had already arrived at the opposite side. And the figure of Su Wuzi appeared at his previous position. When Su Wuzi appeared at Lin Yi's previous position, he was greeted by a huge fist. Vodka was filled with black light all over his body, and he punched down. Bang! The colorful light shield was hit in an instant. Under the huge force, Su Wuzi didn't have time to use the special ability of the light shield this time. He flew out directly under the huge force and landed in the field. Only then did he see Lin Yi standing on the other side. The other party was looking at him indifferently. Round 2 begins. At this time, 5 strange figures had already arrived behind Su Wuzi. Various different forces focused their fire on him. Boom! A huge collision exploded in an instant. This time he didn't avoid it either. But at this time, the light shield had opened again, and the light of the 5 elements quickly produced a mysterious force field, deflecting 5 attacks. At the same time, a colorful torrent burst out from the light shield and shot out in all directions. 5 elements extinction divine needle. The world's best penetrating power. In an instant, the 5 strange beings that besieged Su Wuzi were pierced. They fell to the ground with holes all over their bodies. Su Wuzi stared at Lin Yi. He had just endured a round of attacks, and he launched another wave of attacks, and another 20% of his strength disappeared. At this time, his remaining strength was only 40%. But he still hadn't unlocked the seal in his body. It was not the right time yet. He looked at Lin Yi with a hint of coldness in his eyes. The treasure fan in his hand fell slightly. The colorful essence permeated, turning it into a colorful sword. The sword light was 2 meters long and 20 centimeters wide, a huge sword light never seen before. The terrifying high-frequency vibration permeated the sword light, making it look like it was shrouded in a ball of colorful mist. Lin Yi's true destiny solution instantly captured the horror of the sword light. A flash. Su Wuzi rushed towards Lin Yi, and 5 figures had blocked him. Among them, the fastest one was Whiskey. His right fist expanded, and he blasted towards Su Wuzi with great power. But Su Wuzi was like a phantom at this time, and suddenly accelerated past the huge Whiskey. His attack was directly missed. Behind him, 4 strange beings, filled with different powers, blocked Su Wuzi's path. But the sword light burst out in an instant, and a flower made of sword light bloomed from Su Wuzi's hand. All 4 figures were involved, and the black and colorful light collided, making a crackling sound like metal friction. The harsh sound gave Lin Yi goosebumps. Then the sword light in his hand exploded completely, and the 4 strange beings were cut into countless pieces by the sword light. A figure came to Lin Yi in an instant with great speed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 459. The sword light was still sharp, not dimmed at all by killing 4 strange beings. At this time, Su Wuzi's face was calm, with only calm murderous intent and a strong mental oppression in his eyes. Facing Su Wuzi now, Lin Yi still maintained a calm attitude. The space-time canvas was activated. Without any warning, he disappeared in Su Wuzi's eyes again. The next moment, he returned to his original position. Quietly watching Su Wuzi swinging his sword in the air. At this time, Su Wuzi frowned, and his sword light slowly fell. His eyes swept around, and 10 maze puppets were walking towards him. The initial 5 elements extinction divine light pierced through the 5 maze puppets and slowly climbed up from the ground. There were dozens of short and top-rushing and body-penetrating strange beings staring at him from all directions. Looking at Lin Yi hiding behind these strange beings, the power in Su Wu's body was less than 30% of his heyday. His face was more solemn than ever. At this moment, he regarded Lin Yi as a real enemy. Lin Yi, the owner of the Wanchaiwu, I underestimated you. I didn't expect you to have so many ambushes. It seems that I still have to show my true strength. You will not have any more chances next. As he said this, the sword light in his hand slowly disappeared, revealing the body of the 5 elements divine fan. Then his left hand moved in front of him, and the divine fan was placed on his chest. His left hand began to pinch a strange handprint, and then the essence in his body began to boil rapidly. The energy in the surrounding void was rapidly approaching him. At the same time, the essence he poured into his robe was instantly withdrawn. All the power was injected into the divine fan in his right hand. His eyes were sharp, looking at Lin Yi in the distance opposite, and he didn't even look at the maze puppets that were approaching him quickly. At this time, the brilliance of the divine fan in his hand had reached a level that made Lin Yi look sideways. From the perspective of energy alone, it has reached the level of all the essence in Lin Yi's body. At this time, the divine fan in Su Wu's right hand was under his control, and it danced like a circle with his body repeatedly. The light of the divine fan drew a spiral shape, and in the process of turning in circles, Su Wu slowly squatted down, and the tip of the divine fan in his hand fell to the ground. A trace of light stayed around him, just like the genes of the antiseptic spiral. The next moment, the light of the spiral suddenly bloomed and began to rotate rapidly. Like a tornado, it submerged Su Wu's figure. The huge suction force broke out in an instant, and the maze puppets and strange things that were originally rushing towards Su Wu were instantly accelerated under the suction and rushed towards Su Wu. This hurricane is expanding at an astonishing speed, and air, energy, and debris are being sucked into it crazily. The energy fluctuations in it are growing rapidly at an astonishing speed. In just a moment, it reached 5 times, which has far exceeded the limit of human essence. It has even exceeded the limit of the power of normal magic tools. This is Su Wu's killer, a special way of using Taoism and magic tools. At this time, the nearest maze puppet had already rushed into the tornado. Or it was forcibly sucked in. Then, under the observation of Lin Yi's true destiny, the strange existence that entered the storm was swallowed up. His body structure was disintegrating at an alarming speed, turning into small pieces. And the maze puppets that were caught in it also became a member of this huge tornado. The brilliance of the 5 elements contained terrifying power, tearing apart everything that rushed into it. It was only 2 seconds, and this huge storm had swept across most of the open area. All the maze puppets that rushed towards it were torn to pieces under the huge attraction, and they couldn't even escape. All this happened too quickly. Countless black fragments appeared in the colorful tornado, all of which were maze puppets. At this time, the tornado became even larger after tearing these maze puppets apart, and quickly moved in the direction of Lin Yi. The air in the entire basement was sucked in, and it even gradually became a vacuum. A huge force was pushing Lin Yi, Brandy, and Vodka towards the hurricane. At this time, Brandy and Vodka looked panicked. They saw the scene just now and knew that if they were sucked in, they would die. They quickly bent down, put their hands in the ground, and lay on the ground. They wanted to stabilize their bodies and avoid being sucked in. But the suction force was too great. They pierced the ground with 5 fingers and dug out a large piece of maze rock fragments on the ground, but they still couldn't stop themselves from sliding towards the center of the storm. Lin Yi's eyes fell on the 2 of them, and a force of space enveloped them. The next moment, the 2 of them disappeared here and were thrown to the exit of the maze by Lin Yi. At this time, the huge storm had arrived in front of Lin Yi and instantly submerged him. At this time, Lin Yi also disappeared on the spot. Boom! A huge explosion exploded in an instant. The colorful light swept around like a torrent. These lights were mixed with countless pieces of paper, like a weapon of metal storm. They tore the walls of the surrounding maze into pieces, and at the same time there was a huge air shock wave. In just a moment, the entire underground maze was completely blown up, all the walls were destroyed, leaving a pure space of more than 200 square meters. At this time, brandy and vodka were affected by this huge storm and covered by countless fragments. And Lin Yi also appeared beside the two of them. But he was unharmed. After all, Zhenming Wujiang was not a vegetarian. A trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. The third level of the Ghost Immortal Dao is really terrifying. This is the real strength of this level. In the center of the explosion, Su Wuzi, dressed in a black robe, stood there quietly. His eyes fell on Lin Yi, revealing deep shock. Lin Yi actually still existed under his killer mace, and he didn't seem to be hurt at all. This was far beyond his expectations, even though this was the opponent's home court and had all kinds of abilities. But how terrifying his 5 elements storm was, the opponent could actually ignore it. And now he didn't see how the opponent did it. Su Wuzi smelled a strong sense of crisis. A dangerous aura was emanating from the opponent. He knew he had to show his true trump card. The next moment, the secret seals in his 5 internal organs were instantly broken. The 5 elements of energy stored in his body quickly recovered to their peak state. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 460. After returning to his prime, Su Wuzi did not launch any powerful large-scale attacks. He felt that Lin Yi was difficult and abnormal, and seemed to be immune to various attacks. What kind of ability is this? A question flashed through his mind. Thinking of this, a colorful magic needle appeared in his hand. A stream of essence and thoughts were injected. The next moment, the magic needle had already flown up and stabbed towards Lin Yi. Its speed was too fast, so fast that it was not comparable to human visual reaction. But something happened to him. His 5-element magic needle pierced Lin Yi's eyebrows, but through the induction of his own magic weapon, he was able to determine that his attack had no effect at all. There was no feeling of piercing into a solid entity, as if the Lin Yi in front of him was an illusory existence. At this time, Lin Yi also moved his feet and instantly crossed a distance of several meters to the front of Su Wuzi. The cane of destruction in his hand brought an arc and stabbed towards Su Wuzi's chest. The destruction cane, without any powerful aura, was simply covered with a layer of faint black light. Facing Lin Yi's close combat, Su Wuzi chose to dodge directly. A faint 5-element brilliance permeated his body, and he flashed to 10 meters away. At the same time, the 5 elements divine needle pierced Lin Yi's body from behind again. But it still had no effect, and he was not injured at all. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with the brilliance of the true destiny Daoji, and he caught the secret of Su Wuzi's use of this moving method. This is a method that borrows the resonance of the 5 elements' vitality and then moves instantly. Is it the legendary sex escape method? He saw the whole process of the other party's use of the method, and had already caught the problem. There won't be a next time. There was a dangerous light flashing in his eyes, and I don't know if it was a unique ability of the Ghost Immortal Dao level. Su Wuzi felt a danger. He had a premonition that if he used the 5 elements escape method again, he would face a great crisis, and even lead to his own death. Does this person have any means to block my 5 elements escape technique? That's why I feel this danger. After practicing to this point, he is only one step away from getting rid of the limitations of the human body. Naturally, he will have many wonderful abilities, one of which is the feeling and prediction of danger. After he performed the 5 elements escape technique, he immediately sensed the danger. Associating his own behavior, he has roughly guessed where his danger will come from. This is the powerful calculation ability given to him by the Ghost Fairy Soul. Lin Yi's eyes quietly looked at Su Wuzi, and he could see the changes in the other party's body clearly. The other party is becoming more and more vigilant, very careful, and controlling every bit of his strength. The 5 elements divine needle passed through his body again, but still did not cause any harm to him. Every time the 5 elements divine needle passed through Lin Yi's body, it did not burst out its full power. And the area through the body is very small, and the consumption of spiritual waves is very rare. Lin Yi also dealt with it calmly, without any anxiety. He was quietly moving closer to Su Wuzi. He was looking for a real opportunity, forcing Su Wuzi to use the 5 elements escape technique again. However, Su Wuzi seemed to see through his intention, and a hint of solemnity appeared in his eyes. Then, he controlled the 5 elements divine needle to fly back to his hand, and the divine fan in his right hand fell again. A faint 5 elements light spread from the divine fan and turned into a sword light about 1.5 meters long. He looked at Lin Yi, who was approaching him with cold eyes. He knew that he had to find out Lin Yi's flaws through close combat next. First, he had to determine what was going on with the other party's ability to ignore damage. The two kept getting closer, and after just a few seconds, their distance was no more than 2 meters. And this happened to be within the attack range of Su Wuzi. The sword light flashed, and he stepped in front of Lin Yi, with the sword light pointing to his neck. But this time Lin Yi did not resist it. If he was hit by this attack, it would be 5% of the spiritual wave consumption. Before there is a one-hit kill, it is very important to save the spiritual wave. Although he has the power of boundless destiny, it does not mean that he can completely ignore all attacks. While avoiding the sword light, the destruction cane has swept towards Su Wuzi's legs. Su Wuzi jumped lightly and avoided Lin Yi's destruction cane. He could feel the great danger on it. His legs were covered with a layer of colorful light, allowing him to step in the air. The sword light enveloped Lin Yi like raindrops, falling from the sky. Facing the dense sword light, Lin Yi's eyes flashed, and he suddenly appeared behind Su Wuzi. The destruction cane stabbed silently at his vest. A chill broke out from his heart, and Su Wuzi knew that it was not good when he saw Lin Yi disappear from his sight. He turned around in the air and blocked it with the sword behind him. The sword light fell accurately on the destruction cane. Bang! A sound of metal collision sounded. Lin Yi frowned. The speed of the two was actually about the same. In this split second, his staff of destruction was not covered by the power of infinite life. At this time, he kicked out and kicked towards Su Wuzi's chest. Su Wuzi was surrounded by a colorful glow, making him look like a god, full of majesty. The light blocked Lin Yi's kick. But the huge force made him retreat several meters. During this process, Su Wuzi's foot had already stepped on the ground, and his eyes were fixed on Lin Yi, without blinking. In the previous attack, he had already sensed the danger, and this danger was like a shadow that followed him. The reason why he was hit by Lin Yi's kick was not that he could not avoid it, but that he was carefully observing where the danger on Lin Yi came from. But unfortunately, Lin Yi did not use the real killer move. Su Wuzi's eyes became more and more cautious. He seemed to be doing his best, but in fact he only used 50% of his strength, and the remaining half of his strength was for defense and vigilance. In order to respond to the crisis at any time, the seemingly thrilling scene just now was actually within his calculations. Lin Yi naturally saw the flow of his essence and guessed his opponent's thoughts. This guy is really cautious, and he has been holding back his big move. He has been alert to me all the time. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but frowned. There is only one way for him to kill the opponent. The destruction cane and true destiny were used to pierce the opponent's body. At this moment, he did not defend himself at all. True destiny withstood all attacks and then let the power of the destruction cane explode in the opponent's body. But this plan had a prerequisite. The cane had to be pierced into the opponent's body at the moment when the opponent was completely defenseless.